Hello, everybody. You should be able to hear me, should be able to see me. Can we get some confirmation in the chat by someone? I think I have a viewer. So, that person, just let me know if things are okay. Am I getting a good stream? Are things all good? I don't know yet. Oh, wait, for at least one confirmation. This is what my streams have turned into now. It's just waiting for someone to tell me that everything's okay, and then I can get started. Everything okay. It's I guess I could see myself if I watch myself. Is this a better way to test it? It looks okay from my end. Sounds okay. I'm gonna say that we're good. I'm gonna say that everything is fine, but would really like some confirmation of that, please. What we're doing today is some more on the Whisper stuff that I made the other day. Probably gonna try and get it so it at least stores a Whisper. I'm not sure how long I'm gonna stream for. Not sure if I'm gonna be drinking. I know it's daytime, so probably shouldn't, but it's a Sunday and it's a nice day, and after this I could just go chill in the garden. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, let me know if you can hear me okay. Sorry about the squeaky, creaky chair. Just give me a thumbs up or something in the chat if all is good. And that will help, because then I will know for sure. But I checked on my end, and everything looks fine on my end. And apparently I'm getting like solid frame rates and all green on OBS. So yeah, I think maybe that I've sorted out the sync between audio and video. I don't know. I was looking into it, and basically my microphone that I'm using has like a higher bit rate than what I had on OBS setting and uploading, something like that. So I tried to fix it. So might not have fixed, might have improved a tiny bit. I don't know. Is there anyone around that can chat to me and say hello and let me know that things are okay? And it doesn't look like we're getting anyone talking, unless like my chat window, like sometimes I worry that like this pop-out chat window thing isn't necessarily the most up to date, or like if it's from like another video or something and it's not actually from my current stream. But let's take a look. And okay, yeah, it doesn't look like anyone it has been chatting, so I'm assuming it's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start the video, I guess, but I don't know. Kind of wanted to get someone to talk to me, because otherwise, I don't know, it just feels weird sitting here and talking to myself. Not that I can expect there to be viewers all the time. I guess I need to get used to people not wanting to talk to me, but yeah, I don't know. Hello, finally some chat, which is good. I love chat, because then I don't have to do anything like fill the silence with my boring text. So I got a new app on my iPad for writing things, so that when I do this one, there you can see. Yeah, my writing's terrible. I know. I quickly wrote in what we did the other day when we were writing stuff and writing about how the app is going to work. All of the stuff which is like, let's see, all of the stuff which is basically from here around here, I don't know whether we're even going to do. I don't know if so basically what we're going to do is we're going to set like a random string. We're going to allow someone to write. They're going to get a custom URL, and then it's going to work like a whisper, right? So it's going to fade out over 60 seconds after the first person views it. So basically we'll check if it expires, and then if it doesn't, we'll create the expire for plus 60 seconds into the future, and then we'll return it, and then basically everyone else, it will just already exist. So we'll just, didn't mean to do that. So we'll just use the expires to calculate the opacity of the text. So like as it gets closer to 60 seconds, it'll be closer to 0, and then when it's at 0, we'll stop the render. What I'm still unsure about here is basically I could create this sort of like looping scenario. So basically if it gets to 0, you yourself or anyone viewing the page has 60 seconds to basically re-whisper it, which will then reset the expires, updates the content, and then anybody else that comes to the URL will see your content. But it's not like they're going to know that you wrote it, or they're going to know that the other person didn't write it. So that could be fun. That could be like a fun thing, like kind of turns into a bit of a game, like, but I don't know if that could get out of hand, like if someone posts something that's a bit like inappropriate on someone else's whisper, whether that's gonna be bad for that dude, or whether like he doesn't really matter because that's the fun of it. I haven't decided. I don't know how much I'm gonna get done in this video because, as I said, it's the daytime. So yeah. Normally I do it at night, which is like I can have all night to do it, and still then I set myself to like an hour or so. But yeah, everything's looking good. Let's switch to the screencast. So this is kind of what we got from the other day. I'm not too happy with these blobs around in the background. It's kind of like you can kind of see it a bit too much, like what's happening with the blobs. You can actually see that it's literally just like translating across the screen, and it's just like blurred on them. It looks kind of cool, but I don't know. I think the color differences, like I'm no designer and I just sort of picked the colors, and it's basically just copied my my personal site. But I think the color differences make it easier to see the translating. Then like there's exactly the same animation is happening here, but for some reason it just looks like a bit less obvious. And I think it's just the colors. But we're gonna leave it because who knows, we might make a video on how to make this like gradient background a little bit nicer anyway. With like, instead of actually having the SVG and then blurring it and then just translating across the screen, we can like take the path and then put it into like Free.js and then morph the SVG, which would be really cool because then it would actually like be morphing, and then we just blur that or add like an SVG blur filter on it for better performance. But like I'm not too fussed. Like it doesn't bother me too much. I could increase the blur. I think it's already got like 100 pixels blur. I'm not really too sure. Also, yeah, I know I'm using a light theme. I know I'm gonna change it because I don't know. I just came across it in my last stream, and I was like, you know what? I kind of like the light theme, but I think I normally use like one of these two. I think I'll go with this one. So you know, you guys can see my screen a bit easier now without having to hate on me for using a light theme. Right, so what's going on? What am I doing? So basically, I'm gonna just see these backgrounds. I'm trying to remember. I think it's in layout. instead of 100 pixels, let's do like 150 pixels and see if that helps. This is actually the website. It's not my local host, so it's not going to change. Let's see. Let's just do yarn dev to run localhost. So I have done a couple things to the site since I left last stream. And that was only because I had like one annoying thing that was happening, right? So we made a custom use local storage hook. And basically it all works fine, but I had this bug, which if we just remove the local storage for this site here, if we just remove this, then it had this bug that when you first came to the site, this would just stay disabled, right? And this is red because I just chose red for the disabled state, so it was just there. And it kind of didn't really matter if you typed in here or whatever, like it's always going to be disabled until you refresh, and then it will start becoming undisabled. And this was because some basically we're using the hook in two locations, but we weren't referencing the previous state of the initiated first render, because we're rendering it on this index here, and we're setting in the initial value, which is going to be this random string. And then what we were doing is on this whisper, we were just basically using the same hook, but instead to just get this code, and we weren't passing it down to the component, all of that stuff. So all of this initial value stuff is all set up in here. We did that in the last stream and that was fine, but the issue is that because we were referencing the use local storage hook from another component, it basically can be null sometimes, which basically was just overwriting the original setting. So now that I haven't changed anything inside this this local storage hook, which basically just added some logs while I was sort of like seeing what was going on, but I can remove these. All of that stuff, we basically are just doing the boring thing of getting the code, and yeah, I do also have like set code or whatever here to set the code, but because we're passing in the initial value as the default value, it's fine here. Then I'm just basically going to pass this down to the whisper component, and then everything else is going to be handled here anyway. And then basically what that means is that it works fine. So we're going to go with that. Cool. My local host goes really slow, by the way, whenever I'm streaming, but yeah. So you can see when my inspect element opens up, if we remove this application thing here, that it's fixed on this side. It's not local storage. It's kind of safe. Like, it's kind of hard. Like, it kind of depends on what you're storing in here. Like, for this thing, it's not like we're going to be storing any information about the user or anything like that. We're not going to be storing sort of passwords. We're not going to be having a user database. We're not going to be storing IP addresses. It's literally like we're just throwing like this random string at it so that we can just use it to basically, if they go to their own whisper on the same browser and computer that they're doing, we know that it's them, so we won't start counting down the timer, and it's not anything like that. In terms of using JSON web tokens for authentication or refresh tokens, it's probably like similar to like sort of session and cookies. I think you can just like encrypt cookies and that's fine, but then in the UK you have to have that annoying banner which is like, we use cookies, do you accept, and all of that stuff, so that's kind of annoying. But honestly, I would say it's fine to store at least the access token and then have the refresh token stored somewhere locally as well. Basically, the only way that someone can get this local storage is if they're on your computer, I believe. Don't know too much about it. Like, web hasn't really been my forte for a while. I've been making apps for the past sort of 2.5 years. So it's been a bit crazy coming back to web and being like, oh, I need to remember all of this stuff for web. But yeah, I'd say it depends on what you're storing there. I wouldn't store any environment variables or anything that's basically people could use like passwords or anything, but like um, yeah, just store encrypted stuff there and you should be fine. In our case, it's just a string that means literally nothing at all. Two people could have the same string. It's literally just a string. But if you remove this, then you can see that if we refresh, it goes red for a split second as it's sort of like setting that. But then it updates and we have this string and it's fine. So that's basically the one fix that I made since I last streamed that I wanted to go over. So I'm just gonna git commit added fix for and use local storage git push. Boom. Okay, and that will go live soon to whisper.li. So I'm gonna admit I haven't like planned out anything in this video. I've literally just been like, oh, this is a cool idea, and then let's make it. And I don't know what I'm gonna do in this stream, so I'm looking at it now. And what I basically want this to do is fade in. I know it sounds small. Let's get my dock down here. Come on, there we go. So I want this to kind of fade in as if it's like kind of slowly coming at you. And I can just imagine that's how like a whisper would translate itself into visuals. So first of all, let's change this placeholder to write a whisper or something like this, just so that it's not hello, because that's a bit weird. And then we can go into this styled component for the styled input, which is this one here, and let's create a keyframe. We'll call it fade in, and then obviously 0% will be opacity 0, and then 100% will be opacity 1, and looks like we don't need this comma here. So I'll set the default opacity to be 0 just so there's no flash while this gets applied, and then animation will be fade in, and I don't know how long I want it to be. I want it to be quite a long time, like literally quite a long time, like 5 seconds. We'll use ease in and out, and then if we set it to forwards, then we're basically going to be taking this last value as the sort of state afterwards, so it doesn't go back to 0 after the animations ran. And then we save that, and then we see that this kind of fades in pretty nicely. I like that. I don't know if we will be focused on it by default. I don't know if that was just because I was already focused on it, which it looks like it was. I don't know if we want to be focused on it. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe. But then basically if you're on mobile, then your keyboard's going to pop up, and then it kind of ruins the the whole screen. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So that was like, I might even make it longer, you know. I might make it like 6 seconds. How does this look? Yeah, it's quite nice. It's quite nice. Right, so now that we have that, I think we're gonna start doing the sort of post request and then an API request to the serverless function, which is then going to use Redis, and it's going to connect to a Redis client. So I guess we should run Redis locally just to have that going in the background, so we don't forget that later on. Yeah, I think that's good. So what do we need to do? I don't know. Okay, so we could do like an on press on this button, but I think if we wrap it in like a form, and I'm really not sure what this is going to do to the styles. I think it's going to fuck everything up. Yep. But we could basically make this whisper container a form, and instead of call it whisper container, call it whisper form. And it can just be like a styled form. So if we change this here, and then go to the styles, and then go to whisper container and change it to whisper form. Instead of style div, it's a style form tag. And then come back here, and then we don't need this anymore, but this is still a HTML form tag, which means that we can have the type of submit on here, which would then allow us to submit this form, and then we could just say on submit, on, we'll just call it on submit, and in that case we can do this on submit, and then it gets an event, and this is going to be like a form event. I believe that's the right one. It might not, but it will throw an error at me if not. And then we can do e.pre-event default, and then this is where we're going to do our post request. Let's just do like a really fun alert. Hey, just to kind of make sure that everything's working. And basically what this means is, because it's all wrapped in a form, I should be able to press enter on here. Actually, I won't be able to because it's a text area, right? Which is kind of annoying. And yeah, I know that like this happens, and we will make it auto grow and stuff. It's just can't be asked to do that now. So yeah, but we should be able to type something and then press this and it'll be like, oh, hey. So we know that that is at least submitting the form that it's wrapped in. So now we need to basically get this state. So basically we can just use the use state hook here, and we say const, we'll call it whisper, and set whisper to set the state, and we'll use state. Badoom. Did that actually import it? Yep, good. And we'll just set it to null for now. But I guess it's gonna be a string. And then string will obviously error because string can't be assigned to null, can it? It's gonna be like, yeah. So I would have to do like or null here if I wanted to explicitly say that this is a string, or null, which I guess we can do. But I'm pretty sure that like, it will automatically type it. If I just have like an empty string in here, then it's going to automatically type this to be a string. Yeah, so I think that's fine, and that's probably the better way of doing it. But now we have this, we can now set the value of the input to be that. And we can just do on change. Right, this is where I'm gonna have to remember how to do this, because obviously in React Native and stuff you have like on change text, which seems much easier. Do you have that here? I don't think so, right? So we can say like on type, on change. Okay, so we're basically gonna get an event, which I don't know this event off by heart. So I'm gonna basically just see if it's gonna be like on change. If anyone knows the type for this event that's being passed into the on change event, that would be cool. Is it input event and then maybe like on change? We'll just leave it at that. Tell me, see when it errors, and then work it out from there. But basically, how do you get the value of the input? I think it's like e.target, which gets the input, and then you do .value to get the value of the input, and then basically you just want to wrap this into this set whisper code here, because we're basically setting the whisper to the value of the input, and then this is going to change the value. Yeah. And let's see what the error is, because it's gonna be something to do with this, right? Right, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it's a change event with the HTML text area element inside of it. Okay, so if we change this to change event with the HTML text area element in here, this should be better. right? I just didn't import that. Can you just like leave this like this and then it's automatically typed? Right? It should be fine. Because it's not fun to just like explicitly type things if they can be automatically typed. I mean, it's nice to be able to read through it as a developer without having to like hover over something and then just wait for it to kind of load, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's now saying it's any, so I think it's not explicitly typed, you know. Okay, so I'm going to say const on change. And then I'm basically just going to take this out of here and put this in here, just so that, oh, everything's going wrong. It's a little bit easier, and then change event should be imported from React. Is that now? Okay, cool. So now this line should go away. Everything should be good. And then set whisper to the value. Yeah, that looks good. So now we have pretty much exactly the same. We're probably not going to notice any difference, but what this does mean is that we can now have this whisper being set to being whatever is typed into this input. So now that we have that and we have this on submit, we now need to do this post request to the backend, which we don't have an endpoint for yet, using Next.js. So we just have this nice little API folder within our pages, which this hello.ts exists, and it just, you can see that it just literally does like res.json and prints out like a name for John Doe. Let's just change that. And you can see that if we go to like API/hello, then it's just going to print out that. But obviously that's not what we want. Camera doing its thing like this. There we go. I need another drink because that is low. How's everyone doing? How's everyone enjoying this daytime stream? Bit of a different time than usual. Normally I'm around sort of late at night, but I don't know. Today I'm in the house by myself, so I don't have anything to do really, and I thought, why not stream? Because it's fun. What's everyone doing for their weekend? Is anyone being super productive? Is anyone being super lazy? Yeah, let me know what people have been doing, so that I'm gonna start a little drink going, because it's my weekend and it's a nice day outside, and I think after this stream I'm gonna go sit out in the garden, maybe go in the hot tub and just chill for the day. So I'm gonna just have a little bit of an alcoholic beverage just to get that going into the vibes. Yeah, and I guess now we're gonna start on this Redis service. So yeah, and Redis is basically just super simple storage state, which is like really fast actually for sending and receiving data. So that's why we're using it. We're not using MongoDB or an SQL or anything like that, because there's just no need to for an application of this size. So let's go back to the screen. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a sip of my drink. I guess we're going to make a new folder, and we'll call it libs for all of our like libraries. We could call it services. We could call it like anything we want really. And then we'll make a new one for redis.ts, which is what we're going to include. And this is going to basically just connect to Redis and do sort of all of our event listeners for like on connect, on error, on all of that stuff, because yeah, like it's easier to have it in one file than to repeat yourself a lot. So what we need to do is we need to we need to import Redis first. So I think it's just called Redis, right? If I type in npm Redis, then yeah, it's literally just Redis. So let's do that over here. Yarn add Redis. And I'm guessing we're going to need some types for that. So, yep, we'll do that. Let's just import Redis from Redis and see if it doesn't have any built-in types or anything, just so that we're not doing that unnecessarily. Yep, so we need to do sort of like a yarn add, and then to the dev dependencies, types / Redis. And I can't see if I typed that correctly because my camera's in the way, but I think I did. Let's see. Just catching up on messages. Cool. Right, so now that that's done, this error goes away. And then we basically want to so basically we have like this Redis URL, right? In this environment, we have this Redis URL, which is our local Redis. This URL string it's normally like this. So you normally have like a Redis URL which has the port on it, like this, and this is just like the default Redis local address because I have it running here. And it looks a bit messed up because of how small my terminal is, but yeah, I have Redis running here. If you use like an external Redis client, they may give you the options like the username and password, which is like username, password, and then it's like at the URL string, and then it's like port. And I'm just going to be using a URL package from npm to basically take all of the information out of this package instead of just listing it separately, but you can do whatever you want. It's just that I automatically get a Redis URL when I add my Redis service onto my hosting provider, so it's just easier for me that way. But if it's easier for you to do it all separately and you won't have to use a URL to pass the string and get this information from the string, then do it that way. I keep the separate port just because when you scale up and you have multiple instances of Redis and stuff, then the port isn't always the same. And then this needs to be in like an array. And for TypeScript, it makes it hard to basically type this into a number if you try to pull this from a string, because the URL parser thinks that it's either going to be a string or null, and the Redis client expects it to be a number, and you have to overwrite that, and it's just a little bit easier to separate it, and it probably would be a ton easier if I separate it to like username, password, and all of that stuff. But you can see that we don't have any username and password here because it's local, but you guys will if you're using sort of an external Redis thing. But yeah, I just wanted to explain that briefly. So basically we want to do const, and we can get the Redis port, which is going to be process.env to get the environment variables, and then I just called it Redis port. Yeah. So now that we have that, we obviously need to convert it into a number, which will automatically type it to a number, so that now this is now equal to a number, which is what Redis expects, which is nice. So now we basically have this other variable, process.env.redis URL here, and this is going to be equal to a string of that URL that I showed you in this .env. And then, so we need a package here, and I think it's called just URL, and this allows us to pass a URL string into it, and then get the host and the auth, which is this username and password stuff which I spoke about. Do they have an example just so that I'm not messing things up here? Okay, so it's just url.parse by the looks of it. This one here, which then returns these values. So let's import URL from URL. Do I have that? No, I was about to say, I can't remember adding that. Yarn add URL, and it probably doesn't have any automatic typing or anything on it, so we're probably gonna have to install some types as well, but it's looking fine, to be honest. So const host name, I think is what it's called. Let's just double check. Host name. Just yep, this is fine. So we need the host name, and I mean that's it for local, right? You only need this. So if we pass this in URL.parse like this, then we get this host name, which should be a string or null. This is undefined, but it should be a string or null. Can we do this? When I get rid of this error, maybe it should just be an empty string. Yeah, to be honest, because then at least it's a string and it can just get null here, which is fine. But if we're using this online, which is what I already have set up on Next for my Next.js, then it will be using an auth, which I know that we're not using locally, but every time I commit, it's automatically going to go to whisper.li. So I should probably set this up, otherwise it's going to error on there. So what I can say is, first we need to create the Redis client, so const client. By the way, sorry if it's annoying if I keep looking over to this screen, just checking the chat, seeing if any of you are asking any questions as I go away. So I think it's redis.create client, and then we basically pass in all of the options here. What are the options? I think we can either pass in a object of options containing like host, or we can pass in just like parameters into the function, and I think the first one is port, but I'm not 100%, so I'm just gonna do it this way because then at least I have some typing on it. And I think I've named everything. Okay, so instead of host name, it's called host, which is fine. And then that should be pretty much all we need. What's this erroring at? String or null is not assignable to string or undefined. Okay, so basically just do this, which will fix the error, right? Yep. And I think this is fine because this will connect basically locally on a client, but then sometimes we have this auth, right? If we're doing this on a server. So we can do like if auth, is it dot auth? Yeah, let's take it's dot auth, and then we can just do auth dot split, and then split by the colon, and then the second item here, which is the password, right? Because if you remember that the auth here, where did it say? Here, username password, we're splitting up here, so we have array 0, array 1, we're selecting the password, we're authenticating the Redis client with that, which that should work online. That should be fine on the server. Let's hope. And then we basically, now we sort of want to do sort of the event listeners for Redis. And this is basically just going to tell us when things are connected and when things are not connected. We can just console log. We could set up sort of with like an error handler, bug snag, or I don't know, off the top of my head, there's loads of them. To send an error when things are erroring, instead of just console logging, so you don't have to check your logs and you can get like a nice email alert and things like that. But not going to do any of that stuff because it's just not needed, I don't think. So you can see that this Redis client has like tons of event listeners. We're not really going to do like on message and stuff because we're not doing a Redis stream. So we're just going to do .on connect, which I think is the connection line, right? Client.on connect, and then it has a function which is a console.log, and then we can say Redis is connected, and then we say you did it, yay. Just keep going, like this, and then we need one for error, client on error. This is just a global error event, and this is where I was saying that you could, for example, the error will be passed in here, and it'll be a type of like a JavaScript error object, and then we can do a console.log or console.error. There was an error. And then you could just print out the error here or something like that. But you could send this off to another service, which would give you some more in-depth errors, and then you don't have to worry about logging it to your server, which could be dangerous. So yeah. And then basically what we want to do now is we want to do process, which is obviously the process of the server, which is how we're getting this process.environment variables. If we have the process.on exit, so if for some reason the process closes or something like that, maybe we just push the new update and it has to close the process and put up another one, or it's crashed and it's quit and it needs to restart. Basically, whenever it closes itself or exits itself, we're then going to just quit the Redis client, like so. And I think this is some function. Yeah, makes sense. So this is basically all of the Redis stuff that we need. Pretty cool. And then we can just export default the client, because then we'll be doing basically client.set. Yep, and then we can set a key, and then we can do client.sadd, which is setting a set, and then we can set the keys of all of the stuff if we wanted to do a random selection, like I said in the first stream, but we're not going to need to do that, I don't think. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, maybe we will. So let's go to this API endpoint. Let's change this hello to Whisper, which is obviously going to change the URL itself, just so that it makes a little bit more sense. Now this here is basically going to take any request, be it a post, a put, a get, but we don't necessarily want that. We only really want to listen to a post request. So here we can do a switch statement here, and we can just switch on the request.method, and then basically we can just do case post, which is what we're looking for, and you can do like case get and stuff, that's the reason why I put this in a switch statement, is because later on we may say if we break this here and we just sort of do some comment here so that it makes sense, and then we have a another case for get, then we can basically run the get request and the post request separately. I just like using a switch case statement out for that because it's nice, and you can assign a default. And for example, we could make the default sort of like a res.status, and then we could say 404 for not found, or 405 for method not allowed, and then we can just end it. So yeah, it's not going to basically do anything if it's not a post request. And then we can just add in all of our get requests if we want that, which we will do for actually collecting the Whisper based on the string, right? So here is what we need to do, and we could have like a separate function here, which would be sort of like on post Whisper or something, and then pass in the request. And then what we can do is we can actually create some unit tests and then pull in that function, because it will be separated and it'll be easier without having to mock a request. We could just request that function and then just pass in a sort of mock request object with like some mock bodies, and then it'll be easy to test, right? It's not hard. I don't think we're going to go into unit testing because I'm not really sort of teaching people all of this stuff on the stream. I'm mainly just sort of having some fun and making a project, so don't expect to just be learning crazy amounts, because yeah, you won't. So here we need to get the body, and we haven't posted anything yet, but we're just going to call it Whisper. in the body, but and we'll see that later on in the stream, I'm sure. So if we just do const whisper and then get that from the request.body, I'm pretty sure that the Next API and stuff has the body parser and everything already built in, so we don't need to worry about that. So let's just console.log this this whisper here, and then let's go ahead and make this post request. So if we go to our components and go to whisper, and then we go to this on submit, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that the Next.js has this built in. Yeah, it has fetch built in, right? Right? Yeah, okay, cool. Which makes things a lot easier. So then we can just go to API whisper, which is this endpoint which we just created because we called it whisper.ts, which is going to be the name of the endpoint. And then we need to basically give it some options, and we want the method to be post, and we want the headers to have an accept, and we want this to be application/JSON, application/JSON here. I think you can also like do other things if you wanted, not just to accept JSON, but you wanted to accept some text. And I'm pretty sure you could even do like star/star to just accept everything, which kind of makes these not needed. But yeah, I'll just leave that there, just so you guys can read that. And then we do content type, and this just says the content type of what we're sending. So this is basically what we're accepting. This is what we're sending. And accepting is like receiving. So content type will just be application.json because we know that we're going to be sending JSON, right? Server might send anything back because it might crash, and then it might send some plain text back. Or if you have a global error handler, then it's going to be JSON. But normally most of the stuff you would sort of move out into sort of like a helper function, just so that you can have some like tokens and anything like that if you were doing authentication built in through cookies, so you don't have to do that for every request you do. And for the applications I make, I even sort of handle refresh tokens and stuff in that helper function, so that all I have to do is call like a helper function to like this, and then include the body, and then it just like all the refresh tokens and assigning tokens and stuff will work automatically. And it's nice to be able to have like unit tests for that specifically. But there's no auth, there's no nothing, so we don't need to worry about that. So after this, we just need to be sending the body, and this body we can send in the whisper. So this body is not going to accept just an object, because basically this body needs to accept a string. So we need to do json.stringify here, which will just neaten this out a little bit. So we're basically making an object which is basically the same as doing whisper is equal to whisper, which is this value here, which is updated from the text input, but we can shorten this by just doing this, and then we're wrapping it in json.stringify to turn it into a string, which will then be passed on the backend, which we will then get on our API route through this request.body, and then we can console log it out. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? I don't know. I have no idea. So let's just see. Let's go to here. Let's go back to here. Let's refresh and wait for things to compile. Right? Unless there's like a big error that I'm not seeing here. Ooh. Webpack reference is not defined. Well, I have no idea for this. If anyone in the chat has seen that one before, let me know what I missed out there. I'm hoping that I can just sort of restart my compiler and then refresh, and hopefully, yeah, it goes back to normal. So it must have just been I've sort of included some npm packages without restarting the compiler, so it probably didn't have them locally. So now let's, yeah, I guess we should expect to see this whisper being logged out. So do I see this? Question mark, publish. And I mean, yeah, cool. So we saw the do I see this, which is the console log from our backend. And then it says API resolved without sending a response because we didn't do sort of like a res.status 200.end, something like that. And obviously we could just return sort of some values here with res.json, and then the status will automatically be applied to 2000. For some reason my camera just turned off. Did it overheat? It's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. Should I just turn it back on and hope that it has reached its maximum internal temperature? Turn off and allow to cool. Okay, I'll do that. And then instead, I will switch to my webcam for my cameras because I guess this is the issue with, is it this camera? We could use that camera, but I think this camera will probably be better. So I guess it's the issue with streaming in the day, right? So let's also change this one to use my webcam here. And then let's also change this one to use my... Oh, this one already does use my webcam. Ah, it's because it's linked, right? Cool, so you have my face back, no worries. And I think this is actually a fine camera to use. Instead of really having to worry too much about using the DSLR into Camlink and all that stuff, just for like a slight better carrying. Wow, that looks fun. How long has the camera been on for? Probably like half an hour before I started the stream, and I have no idea how long the stream's been on, but like there is like a ray of like sun that's just literally just shining straight onto this camera. So yeah, that probably wouldn't help. So yeah, let's go back to the screencast, and you can see that we've got this failed to fetch error here. And I don't really know why that happened, because I didn't do anything since I did that. But that's fine. Now we're returning the 200 status, so we shouldn't get that error in the console log, but we should still get this text that we're console logging, and this is coming from this backend here. So what we're going to do with this whisper is we're just going to store it. And in fact, we have this user code, right, which we set up in the first stream. So this user code is disabled as equals to null, which makes sense, which is what turns that publish button to be bright red and horrible, ugly looking. But we can also send this user code to the server, and I'm not really worried about anyone finding out about any of others' users code, because like they're one-off usages, and then sort of, I mean, I guess they're not. I guess like every time you write a whisper, it'll be under the same code, which is kind of cool in a way because you can kind of get people's code and it'll only last for 60 seconds. I'm not going to worry too much about the security around this, but yeah. What would you say are some good resources to learn back-end technologies? Well, I don't know if you guys know about it, but there's this YouTube channel called The Helping Develop. No, I'm joking. I don't know. Like, to be honest, I kind of just read Medium articles mainly for anything that's code related nowadays. So I say go over to there, read some cool articles, but most importantly is just, try things out, get the local host running, just try and have a play around, and you do that with reading, and you'll start picking things up. What is the user code? The user code is literally just a random string that we're placing into the local storage, and it's just going to be where we make the URLs from. It's not going to be authenticating. We're not doing any authentication. There's no JSON web tokens or anything like that. It's literally just like, did this person post this whisper or not? Because then we don't want to start the timeout for the whisper to start fading out unless it's someone else, which isn't themselves. And like, I know that you can set your own local storages and your own cookies and stuff, and you can just mimic someone else and then post to their URL. But like, I just don't really, I'm not really worried too much about it at this point, you know? We can protect against all of that stuff and we can encrypt it and we can do all of that stuff, but if I do start going down these routes, it's going to take such a long time for these streams to come out that it's no longer going to be sort of like 2 streams a weekend, but it's going to be like 5 streams a week, and then I just probably can't fit that in with obviously working full time as well. Um, but anyway, we're passing this user code and the whisper to the backend, so we could get this user code in the exact same way that we use on the backend, which is for the whisper here. So now that we have that, we now just want to store in Redis. So let's just import that Redis service that we made a couple seconds ago. So let's import client from, and then back a directory into libs and then to Redis. And then this client is going to be the Redis client, and then I think we can just do client.store. Not sort.store or set even. Yeah, there we go. And then the key is going to be set to the user code. User code, and the value is going to be set to the whisper. Cool. That's just going to set it into Redis. Yeah, definitely just make it work the simple way first. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's even better if I, instead of doing it super complicated from the start, if I explain the simple way, and then if I want to make it more secure and then do a stream about that, because then at least people have a base understand why I'm doing it, and then how it changes things. So it probably makes it easier to explain that way too. My cats are doing like the cutest thing ever, and I wish I had my DSLR still on so I could just move it. And as this is attached to my screen, I can't really move it, but they're adorable. They're just on my sofa, just chilling. But we're not here to look at cats, we're here to code. So now that we're just storing that in Redis, does this return a promise? Or is this... it has a callback, so I guess we could promisify it by doing all of that jazz, but I may just have this callback here. And then, what's the first parameter? Is it like an error? Is it the error? I didn't quite read the parameter error. Okay, yeah, so we can just do like if there is an error, which is type of error or null, then we can do a res.status, and we'll do like a 422 for unprocessable entry or entity. I don't know. And then I guess we can just, we might want to do like a JSON of the error, and then end it like this. Do we do .end here? Ah, weird. Okay, so I guess we can just return this here instead, right? So this is how simple this post request is. Like, I don't know if you can get any more simple, but then basically what we're going to do here is we don't even need to send anything back because we already have the whisper and the user code on their end, on the front end. So like that's literally it. So what will happen here is this is a promise. So we could wrap this in a try and catch, and then make this a async function and then do a wait, which I think I might do. So I'm going to just wrap this in a try and catch. I was going to say we'll use the promise for this situation so we can like catch errors, but the errors are going to be here. And I don't know, I just find these a lot easier to read. So if we make this an async function, we can then do a wait here. And then we can just say if there's an error, we're going to just alert the error, because, yeah. Shouldn't the 200 response be in the callback too? I mean, like, yeah, I guess, right? Because you're thinking that it's going to get to this before it basically runs this callback. So if it does error, it's not actually going to error. We're still going to get the 200. So in that case, we want to return it in the callback, which makes sense. Sometimes when you're just like writing things out quickly, it's kind of hard to see this stuff. So thank you for pointing that one out. So yeah, this should kind of work. And if we wanted to, we could have like a loading state. If we wanted to, we could just do like loading and then like set loading equals use state, blah, 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 blah. and then it will be equal to false by default, and then you could just set loading here to be true, and then set loading here to be false, and all of that stuff, which is fine. You could do it this way. There's obviously cooler ways to do it. There's like a suspense functional component in React, which you can sort of pass in a value and a fallback to. So the fallback would be like loading text and the value, and when that updates, it will automatically switch and swap and all of that stuff, which is kind of fun. So yeah, but we're just gonna do a simple loading, and then basically once it gets to this point, and we could just disable it. So we could say like if it is disabled or if it is loading, then we'll disable it, and it's going to go nice and red and horrible for now, but it's fine. Then we're going to do so in the design, basically I made this little message down here up here, which is like published to this URL. After the first view, the 6-second countdown will start. Maybe I'll do that, because then at least that kind of explains what's happening. I was thinking just then that I could just literally redirect them to the Whisper itself, and then they can just copy the URL, but that's like not very explanative. Don't really know. Also, where's my camera gone? This device is no longer working. Like literally, like everything's failing on me now. So we have to use this one. Right? Wow. We'll have to go for this one. And I guess you can kind of see my cats over here just chilling. But yeah, for some reason, like I literally was on this computer for like on this screen over here, a webcam for like maybe, I don't know, 10-20 minutes, and then that one broke. Is everything just overheating in this room? I don't know. Like I'm wearing a jumper and I'm not like the hottest person in the world, so I don't understand how things are going crazy right now. But at least we're hitting solid frame rates. The CPU usage is like right down to like 5%. My laptop's not taking off or anything like that. Everything is chill. So I finally got my recording stuff okay. It's just things are overheating. So maybe they're not okay as I thought. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put this published sort of text here. Can anyone in the chat tell me how long the stream has been going on for? just so I can know, and I can actually do some things in my day, because it's so hard to tell. And I could just have like a little timer up and running, but I don't. And I didn't know when I started. I just sort of jumped on. So someone let me know how long I've been doing this for. And then we'll change this. So cool. I'm just gonna literally do like a similar boolean to the loading one. I'm gonna just be like is complete or something, and then set is complete. And really, like, this is kind of bad naming conventions, because for this boolean I used like the is here to define that it's a boolean. So I should probably do is loading too, just to make sure that all booleans have the same sort of naming convention. It really helps when you sort of are looking at variables and you're like, oh, I know that it is because it's a boolean and stuff like that. So we just need to have these change, this change, and then let's set is complete to be true. And then but what we can do is we can just basically, this whisper footer, we can just do is complete. We'll print out something. If it's not, we'll do something else, which is what we're doing with this button. And then in here, we probably just want to put in some text, published, or whatever. And obviously this would be in like a div, like so. These errors should just go away with time. But I hope. Loading. Okay, yeah, this needs to change. It is loading. Cool. So now we have like is disabled, is loading, is complete. It's just kind of like a neater naming convention to kind of read through all of the booleans on this page, which is a nice little thing to keep in mind. So published, and then let's just add some styles to this so it looks similar to this. So we have like two two different types of styles here, but I'm pretty sure I did them in the same text area, which is always fun. So this one is 20 pixels and white, and looks like medium too. So let's have this to be styled title, or maybe styled success title, and then import that into style or from styles, and then do export constantly and I'm just gonna do a div. I know I could use like a h4 or something, but I'm gonna do a div. This is what React Native has done to me. I no longer care about tags on web. So yeah, font size 20 pixels, color is white, and font weight is 500, I think is size medium. I set that up. I don't know. But yeah, and then basically what we could do is back in our Westwood component, we can just set this to be true for now so that we get to see this without having to post. Style.fe okay, I definitely didn't mean to put that, right? I meant to put in form here. How did that change? Did I miss something and it just changed automatically? Okay, so now we see this published. We're gonna need to have this this text for the URL here, so we can say https whisper.li blah 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 blah, and then the user code here, and that will print out the user code. So we should see this anytime soon, because I don't know why. Oh yeah, blah 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 blah. Did it in the complete wrong place. That doesn't help. So we'll see this, and then we want this text here, which is just going to be 16 pixels and 60% opacity white. So we'll say, like, we'll just copy you, and we'll say styled success, body, I don't know, RGBA 255, 255, 255, 0.6, and 16 pixels, and this is going to be font weight 400, which is the default, which is regular. And then we can just copy you and put you here, styled success, and then change this to body, and then import you to here, like so. Just check in some chats to make sure that everything's still going right. So now that this is being imported, you are being errored because it's expecting a single React thing, so we can just wrap this in a React fragment, and then yeah, that should be good, right? I mean, we'll need to do some like margin top because we haven't set any line heights to push this text apart, and the line height should be what it says, auto. So let's see how it looks, I guess. But yeah, doesn't look auto. So let's just change this to be whatever we put here. Let's just copy this, put this here, and then let's also do text align center to push that into the center. And then let's do margin top of like 20 pixels, just kind of eyeballing that here, which is fine, cool. And then basically on this component, we can change this back to false by default, which will change it back to the publish button. This will start fading in. We'll be then like, I have a secret, don't tell anyone. And yeah, we will have this like auto expanding and auto growing, and we can even increase the width and stuff. But then when we publish, it'll publish, it gets disabled, it posts to the server. This will obviously just be displayed for you, and then you can go to this URL, and then this URL we'll set up like a dynamic page in here, so we can just create a new folder, which is kind of like called like ID here, and then if we go to, in fact, we don't even need it to be a folder, right? Move to trash. We can just create a new file, and we'll call it id.tsx, which will make it a dynamic page for this ID. And then we can import React from React and all this boring stuff that we've done a million times now. And then I should just set up like a little shortcut. But yeah, let's say view whisper, and it'll be a React.functional component, just to type that out so it has all of our defaults in there. And then we return, and we'll just say hello for now in a div, just to kind of make sure this is working. And then we can also get the ID that we're using to go to this URL through the router. So if we go const router equals use router from Next.js, this will give us a bunch of stuff, but mainly it's going to give us what this ID is, and how we get that is just on the router.query. So we just say const ID, and we do that of the router.query. Do we have any chats? Nope. Cool. And then basically what I'm thinking about doing is there's a package from Next.js, same people, and it's basically use SWR, and then you can basically just pass in the API whisper, and we'll probably do something like this for the endpoint to collect the whisper, like this, and then it's literally just going to return in like a data object here. So we have like const data, and it also handles like all of the error handling and everything like that. And you can even like pass in like a suspense loading option here, which will make the component suspense work for when it's loading. But we're not going to do any of this in the stream. I think I'm going to end it before we do the collection of things. But we'll say looking for the whisper ID. Just so that we can kind of see what that's doing. Export default view whisper, like you. Cool. So now when we go to like this / here, and I'm not sure this will work, but it looks like it's worked. So you can see that now we're looking for this whisper here. And we're going to be basically using that to pull from the Redis store just to make the whisper show in the same way. We're even just going to include this whisper component that we have here, that we're including on the index, this whisper component, but we're just basically going to pass in a initial value, and then it's going to set the input to be like not editable, just so that we have like the same fade in and all of that stuff. And then if we wanted to go down the path of why did my tablet not turn on? Well, streams are annoying. Why is my iPad? I don't know. I really don't know what's happening. But I was going to show you with my iPad the little part that I was going to talk about, but we're not going to do that. So yeah, and basically if I wanted to use, like, it'd be nice to use this whisper component, because then we still have all of the posting stuff in here if we wanted to do the whole free whisper logic, which I spoke about at the start of this video, when things were working correctly. But for some reason they're not working correctly. Let's change my camera to be the one that works now instead of the one that doesn't work. You can watch my cat lick its own foot, because that's impressive. Yeah, I think we're good. I think I'm going to end the stream. I have no idea how long that stream went on for. I guess I can probably check on my phone. Let's have a look. Does it even say how long I've been going? It doesn't even say. I don't know how long the stream was. But it's just a little stream in the daytime to just get a little bit further. We managed to get the posting done, so now all we need to do is collect the whisper, and then in the next stream we'll talk about the re-whisper option and see if it's something that you want to do, maybe not. But for now, I'm going to first of all commit this stuff, and I know you guys can't really see my commit line here because my face is over the top of it, but basically what I'm doing is committing it to the repo, which is in the description. So if you want to go and give that repository a little star, if you want to make a PR, if you want to do something, do whatever you want, and then I can review or stuff in the next stream and just take a look at it. That could be fun. That could be fun. So added second stream code. I put Steam instead of stream. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Cool, so I'll push that up, and that should also be live, so people will start being able to make whispers, but no one will be able to view whispers. And I think, by the way, if we go to our sort of like Redis sort of client, we should be able to see that Redis thing that I added in here. Yeah, so this one here, I have a secret, don't tell anyone, we'll see. And this was just me testing out the rand functions in the terminal, so we could do the s rand for selecting a random member on the keys, and it would just get us a random member. So I was thinking we could I didn't mean to do that. I was thinking we could just have like a / random, which would do this basically on a key set and get you like a random value of this, which would be fine, which would be kind of cool. I don't know, but yeah, all things we could do, all of that stuff. I tell you, if anyone wants to make a really cool PR and they want to play around with animation libraries and stuff like that, these SVGs that are floating around in the background, they are just super simple paths. If you look into pages, public images, you'll see this primary and secondary blob. They're just super simple paths, which means it's really, really easy to manipulate them and morph them using sort of D3 or Free.js and actually make these morph around the screen using JavaScript, which I think will probably be a little bit more performant than what I'm doing now, because I'm applying a filter over a translating animation, and then apply the SVG filter for the grade blurring even. That will make a much cooler background animation thing of it just sort of like morphing and floating. If anyone wants to make a PR on that, go ahead, because that would be really fun. If they don't, then I'll probably touch on it, maybe play around with it in a stream sometime soon. But until then, we're done for the day. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to continue having a few drinks, and I'm going to go into the garden, and I'm going to chill out. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like this video, because that helps a lot. Comment on the video, because that helps a lot. And if you're looking for something to comment, give me an idea for the next stream. I mean, the next stream will be finishing this off, but after that, there will be no more streams until I think of another idea. And as I said in the last stream, I'm working on an idea, but it's not flushed out yet. I want to include everyone. I want it to be made for developers, by developers. I want it to be really cool. I want everyone to be sort of contributing it to it. But yep, this stream is now over. I'm sorry, but I got some stuff I need to do today as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the time that it was here. Maybe there'll be another stream later on. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be sometime tomorrow evening. I'll let you guys know over Twitter. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been great. It's been fun. It's been a good lunch start to my day. And yeah, see you later. Bye bye.